Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to be talking about something I'm sure you all deal with every day as a nurse leader.
Oh, absolutely.
Autonomy.
Yes.
But we're not talking about the kind of like surface level, like, yay, freedom autonomy.
Right.
We really want to kind of dig deep and see how it actually plays out in
Absolutely.
healthcare leadership.
The reality of it.
And maybe more importantly, how to actually build more of it.
Yes.
So to help guide us today, we have this great article titled Autonomy, Empowering Nurse Leaders Through Clear Expectations and Decision-Making Authority.
That's a great title.
It really caught my eye because it really dives into the nitty-gritty
Mm-hmm.
of how autonomy works, not just, why it's nice to have.
Yeah, it's one of those buzzwords that people love to talk about, but it's like, how do we really make it work? And it really dives into that, I thought.
Totally. And one of the first things that jumped out at me when I was reading this article was how it defines autonomy. It's not just about doing your own thing. It's about empowered decision-making within a framework.
Yes, that's right. And I think that's one of the crucial points that the article makes. It distinguishes between autonomy as simple freedom and autonomy as empowered decision-making.
Right.
And it emphasizes that true autonomy is about having the authority
Mm-hmm.
and the support to make decisions that are aligned with your professional judgment and your organization's goals.
So it's not about going rogue.
Right.
It's about, like, understanding your responsibilities
Exactly.
and having the trust to make decisions within those boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
which makes a lot of sense, especially, when you think about how complex healthcare is.
Absolutely. And, think about the pressure that nurse leaders are under to make decisions quickly, often with limited resources and having to consider, all of the ethical and legal constraints.
Oh, definitely.
So without clear decision-making authority and the trust of the organization, it's easy to feel stuck in a reactive mode.
Like always waiting for permission
Yes.
or second-guessing yourself.
Exactly. And that hesitation can actually have an impact on patient care.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, let's just say you're dealing with a sudden influx of patients in the ER,
Yeah.
and you need to make a call about reallocating resources,
Right.
Having the autonomy to act quickly without having to go through layers of approval can be absolutely critical.
So it's not just theoretical.
No.
It actually directly impacts how efficiently and effectively we can care for our patients.
Absolutely.
But the article also, goes into the benefits for the nurse leader themselves, right?
Yes, definitely. One of the things that the article highlights is that there are 3 key benefits of autonomy for nurse leaders.
Right.
And you just touched on one, which is the ability to make timely decisions.
Right.
But it also talks about building confidence and competence and reducing stress.
Okay, let's unpack those a little bit.
Sure.
The confidence piece, I think, is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
How does having more autonomy actually make you feel more confident as a leader?
I think it boils down to the opportunity to make decisions, see the results of those decisions, and learn from the entire process.
Right.
And so each decision that you make, whether it's big or small, becomes a learning experience that kind of builds your confidence in your own judgment.
Like building a muscle, right?
Exactly. Yes. And the more you use it, the stronger it gets. And with increased confidence, you're actually able to handle even tougher decisions later on.
So it's not just about feeling good.
No.
It's about being able to advocate effectively and make those tough calls when you need to.
Absolutely.
What about the stress reduction piece?
Right.
I feel like burnout is, everyone knows it's a huge problem in healthcare, particularly for those in leadership.
It is a huge problem, and that's really where the clarity of expectations comes in. When you have a clear understanding of what your role is, what your decision-making authority is, and what's expected of you, it can really reduce the feeling of being overwhelmed or constantly second-guessed.
But I can also see how clear expectations could go too far
Oh, for sure.
and feel like micromanaging.
Yes, definitely. And the article actually stresses that clear expectations shouldn't feel like a straitjacket.
Oh, good.
It's not about limiting you. It's about creating a framework that supports your decision-making.
Okay, so you have clear boundaries, but within those boundaries, you have the freedom to make decisions.
Exactly.
What does that look like in practice?
Well, it starts with really clearly defined decision-making authority. So, for example, knowing what situations you can handle independently versus things that require collaboration or situations where you need to escalate to a higher level.
So there's no more ambiguity about who's responsible for what.
Right.
And that kind of ties into the second core element of the article, which is empowering decision-making.
Mm-hmm.
How do we actually translate that into action?
So think about situations that are specific to nurse leaders, addressing workflow challenges, implementing team-specific solutions, experimenting with new approaches to improve care. These are all areas where empowered decision-making is really critical.
And that sounds great in theory,
Mm.
but healthcare can be very risk averse.
Hmm.
So how do we as an industry encourage that kind of experimentation without, creating chaos
Right.
or putting patients at risk?
Well, it's about creating a culture of trust and accountability.
Okay.
So organizations need to give their nurse leaders the space to try new things, but also provide the support and guidance to make sure that those innovations are evidence-based
Right.
and align with the organization's overall goals.
So it's a balanced freedom to innovate within a framework of accountability.
That's a great way to put it.
So I feel like we're starting to paint a really interesting picture of what autonomy actually means for nurse leaders.
Yeah, we are, and we're really just scratching the surface. The article goes on to explore the organizational support that's needed to cultivate true autonomy, and that's something that we can delve into a little bit later.
I can't wait. We'll be back after a quick break to unpack how organizations can actually, put this support into place to create this empowering environment for their nurse leaders.
Sounds good.
All right, so we've talked about how autonomy isn't this you know, free-for-all.
Right.
It's really more of like this framework
Yes.
of empowered decision-making.
A structure.
But that structure doesn't just magically appear.
It doesn't happen overnight.
What does the article suggest organizations actually do
Yeah.
to build this kind of environment for their nurse leaders?
Well, that's where the rubber meets the road. The article dives into some really concrete ways that organizations can go beyond just talking about autonomy and actually put support systems in place.
Okay, give it to me.
So first up, and this might sound simple, but it's huge clarity of leadership roles.
Okay.
The article really emphasizes having written guidelines that outline each leader's responsibilities, their decision-making authority, and their performance expectations.
So it's not just here's your job title, go be a leader.
Exactly.
It's like having that actual roadmap so everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, it's like a job description, but for leadership. And, think about those late-night high-pressure situations that nurse leaders face all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Knowing exactly where your authority begins and ends and having that backed up in writing, can really reduce so much stress.
Like it takes away that fear of overstepping
Right.
or not having the support of the organization.
Exactly.
When you make a tough call,
Mm-hmm.
I can see how that would be huge for confidence too.
It is, and it also benefits the organization because everybody knows who to go to for what decisions get made more efficiently, and there's less room for confusion or conflict.
Right. So it's good for everyone.
Exactly.
Okay, so clarity of roles, that's foundational.
Yes.
What else does the article talk about?
The next thing, and this is music to my ears, is leadership development.
Ooh, tell me more.
Organizations can't just promote somebody into a leadership role and assume they'll automatically know how to handle all the complexities that come with it.
That's like expecting someone to run a marathon without any training.
Yeah, you're exactly right. They might have the potential, but they need the skills and preparation to be successful.
So you're saying organizations need to invest in their people.
Absolutely. And give them the tools they need to thrive in these demanding roles.
I bet that's something that a lot of organizations don't do.
It happens more often than you think.
But it makes sense that it would benefit everyone involved, right?
It does the nurse leader, the team, and ultimately the patients.
Okay, so we've got the foundation, we've got the skill building. What else?
All right, so this next one is about finding that balance that we talked about earlier, promoting open communication.
Sure.
Leaders need a space to seek guidance, to get feedback, maybe even vent a little without feeling like they're being micromanaged.
I feel like that's a really hard line to walk.
It is. It's about offering support without stifling that autonomy that we're trying to cultivate.
How do organizations do that?
Well, regular check-ins are a great starting point,
Okay.
but these check-ins shouldn't feel like performance reviews or, interrogations.
Yep.
It should be a space for open dialogue, collaborative problem solving, and genuine support.
So less about, reporting up and more about creating like a two-way street
Exactly.
where the leader feels comfortable coming to their supervisor for help.
Yes, and it can help identify potential problems early on.
Oh, how so?
Let's say a nurse leader is struggling with a new policy implementation.
Okay.
Having that open line of communication with their supervisor could prevent a small issue from snowballing into a major crisis.
So it's like having a safety net there so you can take those calculated risks.
Exactly. And when a leader knows they have that support, they're more likely to come forward with new ideas, to try new things, and ultimately to really drive positive change within their teams and the organization.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we've got clarity, we've got development, we've got communication. What else?
Last but not least, and this one is so important for morale, celebrating decision-making successes.
Oh, I like that.
We spend so much time focusing on what went wrong and how to fix problems that we often forget to acknowledge what's going right.
You catch more flies with honey.
That's right. And recognizing and celebrating those wins can be so motivating.
For sure.
Think about it. A nurse leader makes a tough call that improves patient flow or streamlines a process,
Okay.
and their decision is publicly acknowledged and celebrated. That
Yes.
sends such a powerful message, not just to that leader, but to everyone in the organization.
Like we trust our leaders, we value their contribution.
Right, and it encourages them to continue taking initiative.
Creates this like positive feedback loop.
It does, and it shifts the focus from fear of making mistakes to this willingness to experiment and innovate.
Which is what we want.
Exactly. It builds that culture of trust and psychological safety that's essential for true autonomy to flourish.
Okay, so to sum it up, we've got clarity, development, communication, and celebrating success.
Got it.
That all sounds really good, in theory. But how does this actually translate into better outcomes for patients? Because at the end of the day, that's the goal, right?
Absolutely. And the connection is more direct than you might think. Remember, we talked about how autonomy can lead to more confident, less stressed, and more efficient leaders.
Right.
Well, all of these factors directly impact the quality of care that they provide.
So it's not just like a perk for the leader.
Yeah.
It's something that benefits everyone,
Exactly.
especially the patients.
Imagine a nurse leader who feels confident in their decision-making,
Yeah.
who's able to effectively advocate for their team, and who's not constantly bogged down by stress and burnout.
Okay.
That leader is going to be more present, more attentive to their team, and ultimately more effective in ensuring that their patients are getting the best possible care.
Makes sense when you're not constantly putting out fires or worried about making the wrong decision.
Right.
You can actually focus on what matters.
Exactly. And that focus translates into better communication with patients, better coordination of care, and a more proactive approach to anticipating and addressing potential problems.
So it really is about creating the system where everybody benefits,
It is.
especially the patients.
And when patients experience that difference, the improved communication, the feeling of being heard and understood, the smoother care transitions, it reinforces the value of this approach for everybody.
It's like this positive feedback loop. It is.
Okay.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. We've talked about what autonomy actually means for nurse leaders,
Yeah.
the benefits it brings, and how organizations can create a supportive environment. But I'm sure there are some people listening right now thinking, okay, this all sounds great,
Right.
but what about me?
Yeah.
I'm a nurse leader. I'm feeling stuck.
Yeah.
I don't have autonomy in my current role. What can I do right now to start changing that?
That's such a great question, and it's one that the article actually addresses head on. It offers some very practical advice for those who are feeling like they're kind of navigating this alone.
But don't leave us hanging. Tell me more. So where do they start?
Well, the article says to start with something really simple.
Yeah.
Clarify your scope of practice. If there's anything that's fuzzy about what decisions you can make on your own, or what requires you to collaborate, or situations where you need to escalate to somebody else,
Right.
get it in writing.
So don't just assume,
Right.
go to your supervisor and be like, hey, can we clarify this?
Exactly. Get it in black and white so there's no question. And it's amazing how many misunderstandings and frustrations you can avoid with just that one conversation.
I bet.
And then once you have that clarity, you can start building trust
Okay.
through action.
Okay, give me an example.
So start small, but be deliberate about it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a process on your unit that's always been clunky.
Okay.
Take the initiative to come up with a more streamlined solution.
Okay.
Even if it requires approval from somebody else, the fact that you're showing initiative, that you're problem solving, that you're demonstrating competence,
Right.
that builds trust.
It's like showing that you're ready for those bigger decisions.
Exactly.
It's not waiting for permission. It's just being a leader.
Yeah, just taking ownership.
Love that.
And as you're doing that, make sure that you keep those lines of communication open with your supervisor.
Okay.
The article really stresses those regular check-ins, not in a way that feels like micromanaging,
Right.
but to make sure that you're aligned on goals, to air any concerns, and to get feedback in a safe space.
And that goes back to that organizational support that we were talking about.
It does.
But what about those nurse leaders who are in a place where autonomy just isn't valued? Like, what if their supervisor is a micromanager or the whole culture is resistant to change?
Yeah, those are really tough situations. And I'll be honest, there's no magic bullet.
Right?
But the article encourages us to remember that, influencing change
Yeah.
is a marathon, not a sprint.
So you're saying it's about finding those little wins.
Exactly, those incremental steps that slowly nudge the culture in the right direction.
And I guess that's where your leadership skills really come into play.
Absolutely.
You know, can you frame your proposal in a way that highlights the benefit for the entire team,
Right.
not just your own desire for autonomy?
Exactly. Can you gather data or examples from other units to back up your case?
So it sounds like it takes strategy
Hmm.
and patience.
It does.
But even in those resistant environments, there's probably allies out there that you haven't found yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe there's a physician who understands the value of nurse-led initiatives or a senior leader who's frustrated by the same inefficiencies you are.
So it's about building those coalitions.
It is. It's about finding the people who share your vision for a more empowered nursing practice.
Because at the end of the day, it's not about one nurse leader wanting more control.
No, it's not.
It's about raising the bar for the entire profession.
Absolutely. Recognizing the expertise that nurses bring to the table and
Right.
creating a healthcare system that really prioritizes patient well-being.
I love that. Wow, this has been such an insightful conversation.
It has.
It's given me such a new perspective on what autonomy actually means, not just as like a nice thing to have,
Yeah.
but really as a fundamental element of effective nursing leadership.
It's essential. And it's
Yeah.
so much more than just a theoretical concept. These steps that we've talked about are actionable. They're within reach, and they can transform not just individual careers, but the entire healthcare landscape.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for all of this amazing insight.
It was my pleasure.
For those of you listening, feeling that little spark of possibility and want to learn more and connect with others on this journey, where can they go?
Well, I would definitely suggest looking into your professional organizations.
Okay.
The American Nurses Association, the American Organization of Nurse Executives,
Resources.
tons of resources, conferences, webinars, mentorship programs, and don't underestimate the power of your own network.
Right.
Connect with other nurse leaders in your area, share experiences, brainstorm solutions together.
I love that.
There's strength in numbers.
It's about building that community of change makers.
Absolutely. The people who are committed to making this vision of a truly autonomous nursing practice a reality.
And it's a journey, right?
Yeah. It's definitely a journey, not a destination. There will be setbacks and challenges moments where you might even question if it's possible.
Right.
But if we keep our eyes on the prize, on that positive impact that we can have on our patients, on the nursing profession, on the healthcare system,
Yes.
then I think we can weather those storms and come out even stronger on the other side.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Thank you.
To all those nurse leaders out there feeling inspired, go forth and lead with autonomy.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to another deep dive.
Yeah.
See you all next time.